Bump and Run with Bernie and Dahlby. Presented by Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. Now, here's Brett Bernheisel and Steve Dahlby.
Well, here we are. It's, what should I go?
Oh, there you are.
It's show number 12. That is the jersey of the greatest quarterback in Indianapolis Colt history who quit before the season started. That is a jersey of Andrew Luck. Before we get started with this exciting program, I received something in the mail today. This package.
Oh.
And I'm going to open the package up and kind of show you guys what I got here. And there's a note. Professionally written note to Brett. And he says, I hope this gets to you soon. I sent this the day after the Waste Management Monday qualifier. I'm not sure, but it may take a while because you know how the mail is. Signed, Monday.
Monday.
So, after all this time, I now have my Monday Q Info towel, finally, after all. And this is probably one of the most exciting days in my entire life. This beats anything that's ever happened. Birth, getting married, anything. This is quite a day, Dahlby.
Well, Monday does a hell of a job covering stuff, and I'm sure you'll display that proudly.
I will. I might even display it this week at the Tuesday match, which we'll be playing this week at Weekapaw.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Or so people know, maybe today. If you're watching this on the East Coast, it's now today. Okay, I'll just sum it up. 19-9, complete ass kicking. One of the truly, and even though it was an ass kicking and it was over, I could not stop watching it. Even though football was on, watching the end of this Ryder Cup was something I just couldn't take my eyes off it because I wanted to see how bad it could get, and I wanted to see reactions of the players. But honestly, it was your friend Steve Stricker. He's never won a major championship, but I'm 54 years old, and I've watched a lot of Ryder Cups. In my mind, it was the best coaching job I've ever seen in Ryder Cup history.
Yeah, and when you look at what Strick did, and he even said in the press conference that he hadn't won a major, but this was his major win, and to do it in his home state. He grew up a couple hours away from Sheboygan or Kohler, in a little town called Edgerton, Wisconsin. So to have everything just work so well, I was so happy and proud of him. And you know, you say how bad it could get the matches, but actually how good it could get, to watch the U.S. team and the picks that he made, you know. And when you think about what he did, he brought Scotty Scheffler instead of Billy Horschel or Kevin Kisner or Kevin Na, who would have been good picks, but he brought Scotty Scheffler to be there, and partner with the right people. It was all about matching people up. It was all about, you know, who is going to play with Bryson DeChambeau and which personalities work. And, you know, the kid from Texas was the perfect choice. And, you know, when he was questioned about that, or when, you know, Billy Horschel said, well, he didn't call me. There was no reason to call Billy Horschel, for Christ's sake. This was the perfect setup, or the perfect roster. And quite frankly, Billy Horschel doesn't fit in that group. He may join that group someday, but he didn't fit in that group this last few days. And yeah, just kudos to the American squad for just kicking their ass.
You know, and watching day one, I was shocked as anybody of what Stricker did. And what Stricker did was the right thing. He immediately got everybody into action, where I think I said last week, and I think most people would have agreed with me, that Thomas and Spieth were going to go out every single match, kind of like Rahm and Garcia did, and that's where we're going to fire our cannons out there. But he switched things up, and the first day you got Harris English playing, Scheffler. I mean, you got all these guys that the whole team played, and that was his whole mindset. And kudos to him, because what he did, I can't fault him for any decision throughout the 3 days. I just can't. I look back and I tried to figure out, maybe you shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. But what he did that other captains in the past haven't done is that, and I didn't get to say this last week on the show, but my whole thought process, my whole theory was that the European team was bringing 12 teammates to play with each other, where the Americans were bringing 12 individuals to make a team. And what we saw this week, whether it's, I look back and when you had Tiger or you had Mickelson playing with, and like you said last week, the one time they played together, which was a complete joke, but those guys, I think, intimidated their playing partners. I think when you got paired with Tiger, you were too nervous or you tried too hard, or same thing with Phil because of the expectations of those two, being who they are. I think it got in the other players' way. And he created a bond this year that we've never seen before. And it didn't matter who he really put out there. And it even came to the point where, and I believe it because I've heard it from a lot of people, that Bryson and Koepka said, fuck it, we'll play together. We don't care. We'll get through it this week. And you saw how the team bonded more than they've ever bonded in all the years I've ever watched this thing.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And it, the team, the U.S. team is young. The European team, and I think, Padraig Harrington followed what the Europeans have done for years, and they had won 9 of 12. You bring your experience, you bring those horses that have done it forever and ever, but it just, with Rory McIlroy playing as poorly as he did, as one of your great players, as Ian Poulter playing as poorly as he did, and he's the emotional leader of the European team. They just, the experience did not pay off. They put John Rahm out there, and John Rahm played well, and Garcia, that the Spanish Armada team, they were great, but there just was not there was no momentum whatsoever. And I was thinking about this, Bernie. You have this young U.S. team, and now people are already saying that this could be you keep these guys together for the most part for the next 10 years and win Ryder Cups and win President's Cups. And I think one of the things that Stricker did very well was he did a good job of understanding, let's take Dustin Johnson out of this because he was the old man, and he's not an old man by any means, and he was their best player. But all these other kids, let's say, I think Stricker did a great job of understanding this generation. And as critical as I can be of teenagers and 20-somethings, this generation, you and I being in our 50s, I think, you find a lot of things with these younger generations where you're like, what the hell has happened? But the one thing these guys showed us, that in watching when they were kids and watching the U.S. team get beat by Europe, they've wanted this. They want this time. And you look at Justin Thomas, who was, really the leader from a standpoint of being the heart and soul, the emotional leader of this team. These guys care for each other, and maybe it's just for this week. But they cared for each other more than any U.S. team that I can remember. And I think you've got to look at the captain, the vice captains, and these are older guys understanding how to let these young kids run. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that I saw that Stricker did, was he made things easy for these guys. And then just let them go play. He knew he had talent. Just make it easy, make it comfortable, and let them go play.
So go back to the point you just made a minute ago. And when you talk about going forward in the Ryder Cup, you look at players, you look at this team of the 12 guys, and I'm going to take Berger, I'm going to take Scheffler out of the equation. And I don't know why I'm taking either one of them out, but I'm just trying to make a point here that when you take the other 10 guys, Schauffele, Cantley, Koepka, John, how can they not make the next Ryder Cup team unless they get hurt? I mean, how can't at least 10 of those guys be on the team for the next 6 to 8 years? And when you talk about the old guy Johnson, okay, so soon he's going to be, in 2 Ryder Cups, he'll probably be 40. So maybe we can start. But you talk about, Cantley, Schauffele, the young guns, the Morikawas. How are they not going to be on the team for the next 15 years, 18 years?
Well, and absolutely. And I think in that time, we'll see if there is now a turn in the domination of the Ryder Cup, and maybe it turns back to the U.S. side for a bit. And then, in 15 or 18 years, Bernie, we might be talking about, they brought experience, because they'll be the experienced guys then. They brought experience one time too many, like the European team, in my opinion, did this time. Europe didn't play very good, but I don't think the U.S. allowed them to play very well. And home field advantage aside, this team, like you said, can do a lot of damage in the Ryder Cup for a few years at least.
What do you think of the crowd? What do you think of what is your opinion on yelling, screaming, taunting, whatever it might be? I mean, I know it was here, and there wasn't that many Europeans here fans wise because of the COVID-19 restrictions. Were you okay with the way that the fans reacted towards how bad? You're right, they didn't play very well. How the Europeans played, and I mean, I gave kudos to some of the American players for when it was getting a little out of hand, and then you saw the Americans, telling the crowd, "Hey, let's just calm it down a little bit." What were your thoughts?
I think, and Harrington even said that he thought the Wisconsin fans were, for the most part, very fair. He said he was surprised there weren't as many European fans that got there, whether it was to travel across the Atlantic or just European fans that were here. He was surprised how few European fans they were. But as he said even before, he said, we as a team relish the opportunity to have cheering, and we understand we're the visitors. And so I think the fans were great. I think when the U.S. team goes to Europe in 2 years, it'll flip, and the heckling and stuff. I think for this event, the home crowd should be into it, and I don't think the fans had anything to do with Europe's poor play. I just think they were excited that the Americans were playing so well.
Stricker was the captain this year. We all knew he was going to be the captain years ago, just especially because it was in Wisconsin. In my mind, there's no way he doesn't get another shot in 2 years at the Ryder Cup. Now, I think in 4 years, when it's at Bethpage Black, I think Phil Mickelson will be the captain. That's just me thinking outside the box, and I think I'm right. But I don't see any reason why Stricker can't and won't be the captain in 2 years. I mean, this guy, and he talked about it, and you saw his emotions, and that was the cool thing, because you see emotions on the European players. You saw Rory break down and actually say shit, on TV, which I thought was great. You see the reactions of Poulter. You see, Harrington took it hard. I know we won. I know the Americans won. And I say we, and if there's anybody that watches the show in Europe, I apologize, but I am American, so I say we. I know we won, and you didn't really see anybody on the American side crying or getting completely emotional, except for Stricker. And he wears this event on his sleeves. I mean, You've known him forever. I've met him a couple of times. He wouldn't remember me who I was. He remember you because I know that because I was there one time with you when he stopped you. But he wears it on his sleeves, and this meant a lot to him. And I look at his wife Nikki when they were holding hands walking up the hill, and she had the dark sunglasses on. You can tell she was crying too because she knew how much it meant to her husband.
Oh, yeah, and you know, Strick's a crier. Strick's always been a crier.
Okay,
he's a crier, but he does, and he cries because he is, you know, and he doesn't. He even said, "I don't talk as much as some of the guys." He wears it inside. He is so competitive, and he understands, and you know, shoot, I've seen it since junior golf. That golf has meant so much to him. He understands these big moments, and he is overcome with emotion. And had I been there, or you know, I'd probably be crying with him, especially in you know, in our home state, for that to just come about like it did, to set, you know, a points record. It's very emotional. And I think it's very emotional for a lot of people in Wisconsin. And you mentioned the European team, you know, Shane Lowry, you saw him crying as he you know, finished up in the European press conference. He actually, after he had composed himself, he said, "This is probably the greatest moment in golf that I've had, and I'm on a losing side. And this is the greatest moment that I've ever had because of my team and the camaraderie that we had. And yes, we didn't play good golf. We didn't win this thing, but he compared this as being a better moment than when he won the Claret Jug a couple years ago." And that's a huge statement. You know, and Lee Westwood, they ask him about it, and he says, you know, this was probably my last match, and he won one up against English in the singles. He's like, you know, I'm turning 49 here. This probably was my last match, and he started tearing up because he said, you know, I got to have my son watch this. I don't know if his son, you know, and so the emotions on both sides. And then obviously the U.S. press conference was hilarious because, you know, they were all buzzed with the exception of a couple of them. And it was fun to see those guys, you know, Xander has a big cigar. They can't stop laughing. You know, Dustin Johnson was hilarious. But funny.
Who cares?
It was fun to see them cut loose a little bit and enjoy it. And you know, when you think of losing 9 out of the last 12, this was an important thing. And I think the U.S. team, and you know, I'll get your opinion, Bernie, but I think this meant a lot to these kids to win this thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It meant a lot, and so I'm gonna turn this around and quickly here. Do you think two-part? Do you think Brooks has now bought in to this deal? Because he kind of changed his way. He said at the end that he actually had fun this year at the Ryder Cup, where in past he hasn't had fun. And then I've never been a big Bryson fan, but I respect him more now than I did last week when we were taping show 11, because how he handled himself and how he actually had fun with the fans, and he took and I that hug that him and Koepka did at the end. It was so cool, and I know they had to do it because everybody was saying, you got to do it, and they did it, but I think it was very sincere. I don't think it was fake, and that's kind of what so going back to what you said, yeah, this team wanted. Their whole goal was to beat the shit out of the European team. I mean, that was their whole goal. It wasn't like we were going to go win, 15-14 or whatever. That wasn't their goal was to break some kind of record, and they did. And I'm not saying so much that the U.S. dominated by their play, because Europe didn't play very well. So it was a combination of that. But yeah, I really think that in the next 4, 5, 6 Ryder Cups, I'll go on record in saying we're winning them all. I don't care if it's here, Europe. Doesn't matter to me. I just think that these. I think what Stricker did is he taught these young kids, the young 20s, the Morikawas, the guys like that. He taught them how to be a team for 1 week, and I think that'll roll over for the next 10 to 12 years.
Well, and I think too, Bernie, they've built memories that even when they're playing in tournaments and they're trying to beat each other as individuals, when they get paired together, they have a bond. And hopefully this is something that's been created. And I think you're right. They have a bond that will go on, I think, for a few years. And I hope I'm correct. And I hope that Brooks Koepka has bought into the Ryder Cup, and who knows what his actual thoughts were and how that all came about. He sometimes is a hard guy to read. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a break on this. And I agree though with what you said, Bryson, and with Bryson, I think, and I've told you this before, Bernie, I think Bryson DeChambeau, the mad scientist, I still think in his heart, he's a little kid. And I think we saw a little bit of that. And I always go back to a couple years ago when he won the Rocket Mortgage and he was playing with Troy Merritt the last day. And this was in COVID. There's no fans, and it was kind of early still in COVID. And Bryson had won, and he hadn't won that much at that point. You think it's only a couple years ago, but he hadn't won that much. And he won up to give Troy a hug after he won. And then Troy's like, "Hey, we're in COVID. You got to, and he's still, I do believe he in his heart is still, a young kid. He's just sometimes a crazy mad scientist. So I think for all of these guys, really happy for all of them. And I think, Bernie, they did ask Stricker about would he take the captaincy again. And he just kind of said, there's already a program in place with the PGA of America. So he doesn't expect to be asked to be captain again. And he kind of, he kind of feels like his time was this time, and then it'll be turned over to somebody else. I agree that I think that they probably should change that. I think he should take the boys to Europe in 2 years, and then they can always kind of figure out when Tiger and when Phil and whoever else is in line, they could back that up a little bit. But we'll see. Time will tell. But he did make that statement that he doesn't think he'll be the captain next time.
I'd be shocked, and maybe you're right. I'd be absolutely shocked, especially if 12 members of the winning Ryder Cup team go to the PGA America, knock on the door, walk in, and be like, Stricker should be the captain again. Now, maybe Stricker doesn't want to do it. Maybe this 2 years took a complete toll on him. He's been playing on the Champions Tour and things like that. Maybe it just took a toll on him and he doesn't want to go through it again. But I just can't. I mean, after a 19-9, the most points in the history, and he wasn't afraid to put guys together. I mean, the pods they came up with were great, but he wasn't afraid to break Spieth and Thomas up. He wasn't afraid to sit somebody. I mean, that's my major take. You can look at all you want, like DJ 5-0, one of the 5 players in history, Molinari, Larry Nelson, Arnold Palmer, and Gardner Dickinson ever to win 5 matches. I mean, and DJ even said, I didn't expect to play 5, but when Stricker says to me, you're going to play all 5, whatever it was on day 2 in the afternoon, he's like, yeah, whatever you want, coach. I mean, I want Stricker to be the next Ryder Cup, the next Ryder Cup coach again. I just do.
Yeah, I hope he has that chance, and if he doesn't want to do it, then but I hope he has the chance to say yes or no. Obviously, he did bring something to this team, and I think understanding how they all work. I think he spent a lot of time doing that. But with regards to Bernie, with regards to what you're saying about not being afraid to put somebody on the bench, to say, Spieth, you're not playing after or you're moving to you're not playing as much as maybe we would have thought. That's the competitive nature of Steve Stricker. He's a very nice guy. He's one of the nicest guys you'll meet. But when he's playing golf or he's competing, he's a bulldog inside. And I think he knew he was the coach or the captain, and he was going to make whatever decisions he felt was proper. And he did. I think having Fred Couples there as a sounding board, I think he was probably the main vice captain. I would think that he would go to, a Furyk, a Zach Johnson. But I think having Couples there, he's a good guy to bounce things off. And I'm just speculating on that. But I'm sure that any decision that Steve made, he talked with the vice captains, but it was his call to make. And I just know, I know that inside there's that fighter anytime he competes, and he was going to win this thing. He was going to do everything he could to win this thing. And if it meant benching Jordan Spieth when you think he was going to play every match with Justin Thomas, it didn't matter.
Were you shocked that you're benched Rory in a match?
No, I think I would have benched Rory in a match because he's just not playing very well. Obviously, he's somebody that I'm sure Padraig would have wanted to go out and get 3 or 4 points. How many did he get? He won the singles.
One. Yeah,
he won the singles.
1 point. Yeah, that was it.
And that's just not enough.
Was he the reason they lost?
Yes, he's the reason they lost.
Okay,
absolutely.
I think when we were talking last week.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And
that's harsh to put on a hold, but I just feel like if his momentum is different, if he's playing the kind of golf Rory McIlroy is capable of, then it picks up that whole team. And in years, the last few Ryder Cups, I think Ian Poulter's putter has picked up the European team. This year, Poulter wasn't playing the kind of golf he has in the past. And again, but I think when you look at Rory McIlroy, who, John Rahm's the number 1 player in the world, and I don't know what McIlroy is right now, but no matter where he is, he should be better. On paper, he should be better.
So I think what Rory did to Harrington was it playing so poorly, it changed the way I think that Harrington was going to coach, because nobody was doing anything except for Rahm and Garcia. And right. I think he was forced to keep throwing the same team out there every day, thinking to himself, at least I can get 1 point here. At least I can get 1 point, instead of breaking that team up and putting Rahm with whoever, Wiesberger. He had a terrible tournament, by the way. But he was forced to shove these guys out every round because of how bad Rory was playing. And I think once that happened, they were cooked right from there.
No, and I agree. I think that and it's tough to say, but yeah, I think he was one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that Europe didn't get more than 9 points. Now, there's been Ryder Cups where things have gone very well for Rory McIlroy. There's been years in the past where, he was a dominant player on the PGA Tour and in majors. It's just even this year, he just hasn't had the kind of year that we would expect of Rory McIlroy. It just hasn't been his year.
So on Sunday, I'm looking at the matchups, and it's going to lead to this bizarre story you're not even going to believe. But so I'm looking at the matchups on Sunday on my app, and I'm like, all right, yeah, maybe this guy, maybe. And I come down to this match, Koepka versus Wiesberger, and I'm like, how the hell does Koepka lose to this guy? So I made a wager, and as the day's going on, you're looking at the board, and it's blue, US leading, win. All of a sudden you get to Koepka and Wiesberger tied. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
US leading, maybe a year up. But I kept looking at this tie, and I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me of the 12 matches I'm going to look at, I'm going to find the one that we're going to lose. But thank God that Koepka birdied 16 and almost made an ace on 17 to win the match. But listen to this. Some better on some FanDuel Sportsbook bet $8 and correctly picked all 12 matches on the final round, including, get this is including the 2 ties. He predicted every winning match and the 2 ties. He turned the $8 into $966,290.
That a boy. That's craziness.
It really is. It really is crazy.
That's not. Hey, I'm just looking at some stats here and just going back just a couple years. So just at scoring average only in the 2019 season, Rory McIlroy, 69.057. He was first in scoring average. 2020, 69.21. He's fourth in scoring average. This last year, the 21, 70.0, still 16th in scoring average, but I mean, up almost a full shot worse than a couple years ago. And that's 4 shots around. He's just not quite playing the golf that he's capable of. And, he's only 32, ranked 15th in the world. But like I say, when we think of Rory McIlroy, he should be in the top 5. Don't you agree?
Rory McIlroy's been in the top 3 forever. So you saying where he's at now, I mean, I knew where he was at, but this is as low as I've seen him in a long time. And I don't know, I mean, you watch swings. Is there something that you've noticed? Is it a short game? He's not making many putts. That's for sure. I mean, Rory used to be the guy that, 8 to 10 feet, he's going to knock it in the back of the hole and we're going to go to the next tee. But now it looks like his putting is just not the way it used to be. Am I right? Or have you noticed something like something in his swing, a flaw or something like that he's changed?
I think that he's swinging at it a little bit differently. I'm looking at 2019 is his 24th on tour in putting. Not always a good putter, but just so good off the tee. Like in 2017, second off the tee, 6th off the tee in 18, first off the tee in 19, 6th in 20. And, it's just not there, just not quite the same. I think he's swinging at it a little bit differently than I think if we slowed something down. I just feel like it's a little flatter than it used to be. And, that might be changing something. It's not like he's playing bad, but it's just not the Jon Rahm type golf that we would expect out of Rory McIlroy. And then obviously this last few days, it just wasn't very good.
All right, it's time for Who You Got? Sponsored by our good friends at Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. And after last week, Chris Schubert, the fine executive producer on the program who now travels around the country, so we're not able to do their show at our normal times, was the winner last week in Who You Got. Shu, are you available or are you sleeping? Shu? There you are. Oh, there you are.
Oh, there he is.
Shu, wow. Wow. Rough night, huh?
I was outside for a lot of the weekend, got a little sunburn, but we're here.
All right, well, congratulations on last week. You came out firing out of the box with the first pick and went against everything Vegas said, and you said you're going against Vegas, and you had Xander Schauffele, who scored 3 points. Justin Thomas, who I had 2.5, and Spieth, he didn't quite do what Dahlby thought, and Dahlby even texted me on Friday because he forgot who we picked.
It was right away.
Said,
it was just not good.
He said, Spieth's done, so I'm picking last for sure. So this week is the Sanderson Farms Classic, Schubert, and you winning last week. You have first choice in this week's event. So who you got?
I debated this a lot. You guys were talking. I got the counter in the bottom left corner that tells me how long you guys have been talking. You guys have been talking for 35 minutes now, I still don't
Okay.
know who I want to pick for this tournament. I have bounced back and forth between like.
I've got 2
4
guys.
names.
I've got 2 guys in case you trump me. I've got 2 guys.
Let me just scroll through the list one more time. I'm doing the Dahlby, so I apologize that I'm stealing Dahlby.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
I'm scrolling through the list here on the other screen.
Hey, Bernie, before we, how many points did Rom get? Bernie, how many points did Rom get?
I think he got 3.
So he led for Europe, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Three and a half.
And then how many did Morikawa get?
3.5. They both got 3.5. Rom and Morikawa both with 3.5.
Okay, because that was my wife after the show last week. She's like, "You didn't get my picks," and she had picked Rom, and then she picked Morikawa. So she did better than I did. That's for damn sure.
She would be going first in who you got then this week.
Yeah,
either of those players.
We can have her on as a celebrity one week. That's no problem.
We'll bring her on.
Yeah, find a girlfriend. I'll bring my wife on. Amy can come on, and we'll have the women's version.
There you go.
Gary Woodland is the pick.
Oh,
Gary Woodland. Okay.
Gary Woodland.
All right. So I actually thought you were going to take the guy that I'm going to take. So I'm going to, since he's playing well, and Dahlby picked him 2 weeks ago, I'm going to bounce back with Troy Merritt as my pick this week.
Well, he's not.
And I will tell you who I was. He's not.
Oof. You hate
He's playing in the Dunhill. He's playing in the Dunhill Cup.
I saw him listed. Okay, then I'm taking my other guy. Okay, then I'll wait till you pick, then I'll pick. When did he decide this? No, go ahead. It's your pick. This is how we do it.
No, he gets penalized for picking somebody off the board. I got penalized
I get to pick last.
He gets the penalty too. Are you kidding me?
I know the other guy's playing.
I will take the Zalatoris.
Oh, that was my second guy. That was number 2.
Well, I'm gonna take your second guy. Shoo, I'm gonna take your second guy.
That was number 2 on the list.
All right. Well, I'll take my original guy. I'm going to take Adam Schenk. That's my pick this week.
Oh.
So I've got Schenk. You've got Woodland, and Dahlby has Zalatoris for this week's version of who you got. When did Merritt decide he was playing in Dunhill?
In Napa.
Okay, because I looked today on the list, and he was still listed in the tournament.
Yeah. He would have. I don't even know that he entered. To be honest, I mean, if he did, he withdrew a while back because he got the opportunity to play in the Dunhill Links Championship. It's called. They play St. Andrews. Today is Monday. He actually played a long time ago this morning. He played St. Andrews. There's Kings Barn, I believe, is one of the golf courses, and then Carnoustie. So it's a little bit like the AT&T Pebble Beach, where you play 3 days, 3 different golf courses, and then I believe you finish at Pebble on the 4th day. So it's just something that I think for Troy, every so often he likes to go play in a European Tour event, and the weather's not supposed to be very nice. He's probably not going to see sunshine until he gets back here for the Shriners tournament in Las Vegas next week. But I think he's excited to be over there, and obviously you get the chance to play St. Andrews. It's kind of one of those things where I think he took advantage of that chance.
You talked to him. How did he say anything about travel restrictions, things like that? I mean, I know when he played in the British Open last season. Have things changed? Is he still restricted to golf course, hotel room, things like that?
I haven't talked to him about that. It was from a travel standpoint to get over there. There wasn't the test. I think for the British, he had to get tested right before he got on the plane, tested after he got off the plane, and I believe that was a little bit different. I think he had to do some screening actually on his first leg before he took off, but I don't think there was testing over there. I think he just had to prove that he was vaccinated and maybe had a negative test or passed the screening. So I think it is loosening up a bit, but I do think there's still some restrictions over there. But if they're moving around to 3 different golf courses, there's got to be a little bit looser rules, I would think, in how to get around and stuff. So I'm excited to see how he does. Sometimes he's played well in in kind of adverse conditions when he won the Barbasol. It was raining that last day that he played well and won the tournament. So we'll see if he's a mutter this week.
How did he get in? Did he get invited?
Yeah. So I think it's through world rankings, and I look. There's, I think, 5 of the top 50 in the world playing, and he's ranked 99th right now in the world. So just based on that, he would be someone that would get an invitation. I think Tony Finau's over there. I believe Billy Horschel's over there. Aunt Troy's over there. I don't know how many other Americans are over there. And the one thing that is, you do by going over there right away, this season, as the PGA Tour season just started, you do give up the opportunity to get some FedEx points in Jackson, but he's going to have, instead of 6 now in the fall, he'll play 5 in the fall. So I think we're in pretty good shape, and I think tied 16th last week, probably kind of gives him a nice feel that the game's in good shape, and he can go over there and then come back and play a few. He's going to be going to Japan for the tournament in Tokyo in a couple weeks as well. So lots of travel for Troy Merritt.
You going to Tokyo?
I am not going to Tokyo. No, I will not be going to Tokyo. I would. I've never been out. I've never been out of the country.
What? Mexico?
I've never been out of the country. I have no desire to go to Mexico. Grew up in Wisconsin, didn't go to Canada, but I haven't been out of the country, and I've got to actually get my passport kind of figured out. I'm thinking they'll probably a British Open someday, and probably sooner than later, hopefully.
All right. You were talking about the European Tour. So Sergio, defending champion at Sanderson Farms, he's the only guy that played in the Ryder Cup that will be playing this week in Jackson, Mississippi. One last thing before we go, I want to ask you this question, and I want you to dive into this. You teach a high school team, a boys' high school golf team. As a coach of tour players, for as many years as you've done it and still doing it, how do you treat when a young boy, freshman, sophomore, whatever, is on your team and they have their own instructor? They have this guy that they've worked with since they were a junior or whatever. What do you do as a coach? Do you take over? Do you leave them alone? How does this work, knowing that you probably have a completely different philosophy than the player's current coach has?
Yeah, and so I, as a high school golf coach, I try to take out of that the teaching professional label. That's my job actually, but I look at it more as coaching a team. So my team, the Saguaro High School boys team, I've got 8 players on the team. I actually individually work with 3 of them.
Okay.
The other 5 have their own coaches, and do I agree with some of the ways I watch? Do I agree with the way some of them go about it? No, I don't. But what I tell my guys, and my philosophy is, I try to run this a little bit like maybe a college coach would, where there's days like today. I said we had a team meeting at lunch hour at school. We do that every Monday. I told them this afternoon, you're practicing on your own. You can go to McCormick Ranch, which is our home course. If you want to go to your home course and work with your pros, feel free. We're going to play as a team tomorrow. We've got a match on Thursday. But as the coach, what I tell my players, if you have your own instructor, I said, you go see them. If you need to take a practice off to go see them, that's fine. The only thing that I'm worried about is your play. So you should score, go see your coach and play well. If you're having problems, don't ask me, go see your coach. Go see your instructor. All I'm concerned with as the head coach of the high school, the Saguaro High School team, is the bottom line, trying to get these guys to kind of move up the ranks in Division II. There's 2 divisions in Arizona high school golf. We're in the smaller school division. Over the years that I've been there, I started as a volunteer assistant coach. The last 2 years, I've been the head coach, the official head coach. And, when I started, we had a bunch of baseball players that played golf. Now we're starting to get golfers. Now we're actually starting to have guys that play golf more than just the season. And it's fun. And then we're getting better. We're looking now at our state tournaments the end of October down at Tucson National, where the Champions Tour plays. So it's kind of a cool thing for the boys to be able to go play that golf course. We're a top 4 team probably this year. And I'm realistic about that. I think things would have to go our way to win the whole thing, but I think we're creeping up on it. And that's kind of my goal, is to just kind of keep getting better. But in terms of their individual coaches or instructors, go see them. All I care about is if you play, and they know that if they don't play well, you talk about Stricker benching people. Last year, I benched my captain for 3 weeks. I benched one of my captains for 3 weeks. So I don't care if you're not playing well, you're not going to play.
Man, what a hard ass. Is it like when
That's
I was
me.
a kid, or when you were, like when you were a kid? Do you drive? Is there still a van that the coach drives the team to the event, or is it like limo service now? Do these kids all take like a limo to the course on their own?
No, we have one of those half of a bus, an activity bus, and I've got to drive that damn thing to matches. Now there are times where we'll just, if it's if we're playing Arcadia over at Arizona Country Club, I'm just telling the boys to find a way there, because I really don't want to drive that activity bus. But I actually did this year. I did with one kid in the back, so it happens. And so if you see a white Scottsdale School District activity bus, it could very well be me. They're a pain in the ass to drive too. There's mirrors everywhere. There's got to be, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 mirrors to look at, and I still don't know if there's a car behind me. I really don't. I just put on the blinker and go. It's not good.
That's some funny shit right there. I can just see you two driving that van. Oh boy. All right. Well, podcast 12 is in the books. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Hit them straight, everybody.